Hi everyone, Frosty76201 here. I know it's been a long time since I've put anything up on YouTube, but I thought today would be a great special occasion for that. So I've just got out of watching Godzilla King of the Monsters, the 2019 legendary film distributed by Warner Brothers. And I just wanted to share some thoughts on it. So we're going to do kind of a two-part section here. We're going to do a non-spoiler version, and then we're going to go into spoilers. But don't worry, when it's time for the spoilers, we will give you a fair warning for that. So if you haven't seen the movie at that point, please shut the video off. But don't worry, like I said, you'll be warned. So let's get to the non-spoiler part. So when you observe this movie, first and foremost, I look at the critical reviews that came out over the last, about a couple days, through Rotten Tomatoes and Bloody Disgusting, a couple other websites here and there. And you sort of have this kind of like a mixed bag of reviews. You have some people who are going, there's too much monster, not enough human, too much human, not enough monster. And honestly, looking at it objectively, I think you can say you have a fair amount of both human and monster. It's a pretty good split. And the way I have to kind of look at that is that, you have people who, I think they wanted one to dominate over the other. Some people wanted more human, interaction, and some people wanted more monster interaction. So it just depends on what you went in looking for. What kind of a Godzilla fan are you? Or, Gojira fan, if you want to go by that route. So, we look at the 2014 film, that had a lot of human. But my problem with that film is that the human elements that we saw outside of, let's say, Dr. Serizawa and, of course, Bryan Cranston's wonderful performance, felt kind of hollow to me. Like, don't get me wrong, I liked it, but for the amount that we got, I felt like it was a bit shallow. Like I didn't resonate with any of the characters. Like I just used them as sort of observation points, but I didn't connect with any of them. So if someone was in danger or someone was victorious, in one way or the other, no matter which way they're going, I didn't really care too much. Like to me, they were just a tool to which I could observe through. They were just the binoculars I was using, but not necessarily a connection point. In this movie, I actually cared about what the humans were doing. I cared about the relationships that they had. I cared about, their motivations, their actions, their decisions, their outcomes. I actually cared about, what they actually did in the film, what they contributed to the story. So, I mean, unlike in the 2014 movie, we had the character Ford Brody, played by, I want to say, Aaron Taylor Thompson. I can't, honestly, I'm going to be bad with that name, so forgive me if someone knows the actor. Please just hit it in the comments below. But I want to say it's like Aaron Taylor Thompson or something like that. I don't know, he played Quicksilver in Avengers: Age of Ultron, and I know he was in Kick-Ass. And then, yeah, but that's besides the point. Aaron Taylor Johnson, right? Whatever. Okay. Anyways, his character in 2014, like I said, just something to observe the movie through. The characters like Millie Bobby Brown, who plays Madison Russell, and Vera Farmiga, who plays her mother, and the character Mark Russell, which, funnily enough, I didn't realize this at first. I didn't really IMDb this, but as about halfway through the movie, I realized that he was in King Kong, the 2005 Peter Jackson film. So this is his second kaiju movie. If you consider King Kong kaiju, but that's another debate. You just once again hit that in the comments. But he's a veteran of the big creature feature thing. But I cared about what he was doing. I cared about why he was making his actions. I cared about why, Vera Farmiga's character, why she was performing her actions and had her motivations. And Millie Bobby Brown, I mean, she seemed like, how do I explain her character without giving away anything? she was sort of like the linchpin to the storyline, because as far as your two primary human characters are concerned, everything rallied around them and her, their relationship to her. So I mean, she was sort of like that linchpin of that story. I mean, and honestly, she does affect the story with the kaiju as well. She affects what happens with Rodan, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Godzilla, as well as the humans. So she's actually kind of like the center of the whole thing. So I mean, when you watch her, just realize that she's probably your lead protagonist as far as who has the most effect on the story. Not to say that the other characters don't have effect, they just have different types of effects. They affect this side of the story or this side. If you do this in a pie chart, she's in the middle, and you have the character of Mark Russell, and Peter Farmiga's character, and of course Ken Watanabe's character of Dr. Ishiro Serizawa, and then a few other characters throughout the movie. But I'll get more into that in the spoiler section here. And then you look at and just getting away from them, look at the kaiju themselves. You get a better understanding of what Godzilla's role is in our ecosystem, in the story. You get a great. I mean, they had this great way of showing the personality of not just Godzilla, but Mothra as well, and then Rodan. I mean, and King Ghidorah. They all have personalities, and despite the lack of obvious dialogue and everything being done through like roars and actions and body language, this is one of those cases where sort of less is more. Where even though they can't speak on their mind, it's very clearly translated as to what each one of these creatures feels, and the way they behave and the way they act towards one another. I mean, you get a good idea of what their motivations are too. So that's incredibly refreshing to see. And then it was a welcoming thing, because the last Godzilla movie, I think you got only maybe like a very slim idea of maybe what Godzilla's motivation was, but I mean, this one you get a clear idea. Like you know where he stands. Same with Mothra. Same with Rodan. So I mean, there's a story. I mean, you could cut the humans out and still have a great story with just the kaiju alone. And I think that's what works about this movie. It's fun to just lose yourself into that world of nature and animals. Like it would work as a National Geographic special if you were just like observing. If these were real creatures and you were observing them, it's just narrated by Ken Watanabe, you'd still have a good movie. So I mean, I think that's one of the things that works perfectly for the film. I think the music by Bear McCree was amazing. It definitely set the tone and attitude of the whole film, made everything come alive, made every scene more intense or structured, and sometimes it was even quiet in all the right spots too. So I mean, I think that worked very well, musically. Direction-wise, Michael Dougherty, it's clear as day that he's a Godzilla fan. I mean, and the great thing is it doesn't try to ignore what happened before. I mean, there's a lot of references to the 2014 film, like a lot of references, and there's also a lot of references to Kong Skull Island, which I would say honestly, watch the two films, watch both of those movies before watching this one. Because, I mean, it's not required, but it makes it a little nicer. Like, it's just a little bit of whipped cream on this, this ice cream sundae that's already Godzilla King of the Monsters. So I think I would definitely recommend watching those two films first before going to the theater to watch this one. So if you've got time, if you got the movies, I'm sure they're widely available digitally to rent or whatever. But I mean, honestly, you can get them at pretty much most retailers are pretty cheap now. So, just a suggestion. I mean, the cool thing is about it is you see a lot of evolution too of Godzilla. I mean, you actually honestly even see, you see the 2014 one make a lot of appearances. They actually use, like at the opening credits, there's some footage. I don't think it really goes away into the storyline. It's just sort of like it starts setting up the beginnings of this movie. Which honestly, as much as I love this design, because it's an homage without being overly so, I gotta say, looks wise, much better, much more classic Zilla. I mean, just from a visual standpoint, I love his new 2019 dorsal plating. I love his face. I mean, yeah. I mean, just that alone made me excited for the movie. So highly recommend watching it. Just if you're a visual fan too, I mean, lots of merits. I think the special effects were amazing. I think they made the story engaging. I think that they actually, and definitely, take me back to those old Showa moments or Heisei moments or even some of the Millennium Godzilla stuff. I mean, it definitely, no matter which era fan you are, I think it'll appeal to everyone. But if you're a big Showa fan, especially if one of your favorite movies was King Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, which is in that movie, which I believe came out in the early 1960s. Once again, it has Rodan, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Godzilla. Which honestly, if you have a chance, you can rent it from Google Play if need be. Watch that movie. It's great. You can watch it before or after, either way, but I think if you watch it does give you an appreciation for this one a little bit more too. So that would definitely be a recommendation there. But I mean, beyond that, I mean, if I were gonna, in a non-spoiler way, I would say, I would give it a good, I would say 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. And the reason I don't give anything higher is because, first of all, I'm uncomfortable as all heck with 10 out of 10s. I don't believe 10 out of 10s. I believe that everything can be improved upon, because if you're settling for anything, if you call anything perfect, then you're not going to try any harder. So I can't ever give it 10 out of 10. And if I were going to say there's one thing that maybe made it a 9 out of 10, I would say the lack of I can't say it because I mean it kind of gives it away. I mean, I'll save it for the spoiler. So I mean, I'll give my reasons more in depth in the spoiler section, which I think right now is a good time to transition to that, because I can't think of anything to say without spoiling it. So this is just spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the movie, shut the video off now. This is a good time to stop. If you have seen the movie, we continue. We're gonna do this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, spoiler time. Okay, so let's go to the very beginning of the movie. Okay, first thing it does is it opens up and it talks about sort of a post-Godzilla world. It's been 5 years since the Godzilla attacks. Our main characters, they're dealing with losses. They're dealing with, devastation. And that's okay, because honestly, we live in a pretty comfortable world. And we live in a sort of like a world that's, I don't think we're prepared for any of this stuff. I mean, if you woke up tomorrow and, all of a sudden you see this, coming across your TV screen and it's real, and people are actually being killed and destroyed, and cities are being leveled, I mean, think of how much the world changed when, I mean, I hate to say it, but when 9/11 occurred, the world changed. And if we saw something this big in our time, the world will change again. And I don't, people would, divide and split. You'd have people who would try to, control it, run from it, deny it, watch it happen just because it's, it's there, and then people who are just trying to learn from it, maybe study it, maybe try to figure out what, why it's happening. But ultimately speaking, no one's gonna be left the same, and I think that's what makes the family so in this movie so identifiable, because you actually have three different reactions. You have the character Mark Russell, who's the father of the son. He wants his idea is he wants to kill these Titans. He wants them dead. He wants them gone. He wants to go back to the way things were. He doesn't want to deal with them at all. You have his wife, Dr. Emma Russell, who thinks that we deserve this, that we had this coming. It's her belief that because of war, poverty, pollution, overpopulation, disease, anti-vaccination, rainforest depletion, animal slaughter. I mean, you take all the horrible things that humans are doing, and yeah, I get where she's coming from, but it's not her place to decide who lives, who dies, who's right, who's wrong. It's a much more complex issue than that. But she, in her mindset, that the Titans, as they're calling them, which honestly I hate that name. I hate the fact that they call them Titans, because it just, every time they're fighting, my brain instantly comes to Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titans and whatnot. My brain just can't get past that, so that's gonna have to stop right now. Just so no on the Titans name. Sorry. But so for my sake, I'm just calling them kaiju. She thinks that the kaiju should be, unleashed upon the world, and sort of like a balancing ecosystem, take place again. She believes that, and there's truth to what she's saying. I mean, one of the things that she brings up is that, once again, referencing the 2014 film, she believes that the kaiju are actually helpful. I mean, the radiation left behind by the Muto and Godzilla back in 2014 has reinvigorated plant growth, species repopulation. I mean, ultimately, they are beneficial to the Earth, if we can coexist with them. If there is sort of like a peaceful coexistence, which there may or may not be. If there is, great. But the first, one, well, not the first one she unleashed, it's the first one that's unleashed is Mothra. Which, good news, we get to see Mothra's larval form, which that actually has me really super excited, just as a fan, because I feel like that you should always have the phase of egg to larva to chrysalis to Mothra. I feel like there should, that pattern should always be followed. And in this movie we get that. But then, like a moron, she releases Monster Zero, aka King Ghidorah, who in this movie you actually find out is not from Earth. You find out that King Ghidorah is an outsider, not part of our food chain, not part of our natural order, which is why Godzilla wants to kill the thing. And honestly, that makes sense too. Godzilla is about restoring balance. King Ghidorah's existence on Earth, even by itself, is an affront to that. It's he's a false king. He's the monkey in the wrench. He's the fly in the ointment, and Godzilla's gotta scratch that itch, or atomic breathe all over it. So that's his purpose. And then you see that. Godzilla, as soon as King Ghidorah is released by Dr. Emma Russell, his sole mission is to mess him up. You know, kill him, get rid of him, destroy the Hydra, whatever you want to say. He wants to do that. And there's no two ways about it. And he's going to do that. I mean, he's very single-minded in this action. But then you have characters like Dr. Mark Russell or Admiral Stans, who's coming back, and they just want to kill them all. They just, no, we're done. I mean, that's kind of the position of the whole U.S. government throughout this film. It's like, let's kill them. So, there's a big fight, in the Antarctic, and Godzilla loses that first fight, Not by like a wide margin. It's just, Ghidorah wounds him enough to where he can escape. So he escapes, and then Monarch takes, they take flight in the USS Argo, which is that big plane you've been seeing in the trailer, and they go after Ghidorah. Meanwhile, they're still tracking Godzilla. Godzilla's on the way too. This is also where you get kind of one of our big Kong Skull Island Easter eggs. They talk about Dr. What's his name? Young guy from Kong Skull Island. The Hollow Earth theory. They start talking about that, which is one of those big points from Kong Skull Island over there. Which, and then they kind of explain, that it's a series of interconnected tunnels within the Earth, which these kaiju can sort of move through and from one spot to another. So they're able to, travel as quickly as they do. Especially Godzilla. I mean, he's able to move from one side of the globe to the other at relatively quick speed. So I mean, like, let's say he's I gotta chase this thing, and then, I'm here. He can do that through the Hollow Earth. I want to see if his name was Dr. Brooks. Anyways, so they dropped that theory, and anyway, so they're on the USS Argo. They're trying to find track not just King Ghidorah, but Dr. Emma Russell, the Viva Farmiga's character, who is actually, and this is the great twist, and once again, spoiler warning, she's the actual, I would say the antagonist of the film. I don't want to say villain, because she's right in the wrong ways, if that makes a lick of sense. She's right in the sense that it's our actions that have started this, domino effect. But she's wrong in thinking that she can control it or play any part in it. The kaiju are going to do what kaiju are going to do, and there's no controlling it, and that's where she fails. She's not above nature, which is something that Sarah Zala points out. That's the arrogance of humankind, is that thinking that we have any kind of control of nature. The best we can do is sit back and watch it happen, and hope to, Godzilla we can survive. But she becomes sort of like the main antagonist of the storyline. And you figure out she's, like in the trailer, I heard some people theorize, maybe she's reading something that's unscripted. But no, actually she wasn't. Those were her words. She was not. I mean, and they do sort of the twist there. They do, they give you a twist. They make you think she's the victim for the good, first act of the film. And then when you get to Act 2, boom! Turns out, it was her idea to do all this in the first place. So then what she do? She goes to Isla de Mara, and she awakens Rodan. And then Rodan, he takes out the whole village. He's, and he wipes him out. So what they do is they take the USS Argo, when they try to lure him away, from the island as best as they can in any way that they can. As a, let me see, well, maybe if we could take him and then, bring him over to Ghidorah and maybe they'll clash. And that works for like, a few seconds, but then Ghidorah just like, done. Nope, you ain't surviving this. Fortunately, Godzilla, Hollow Earth once again, comes up, takes off one of Ghidorah's heads. Like, just chomps the thing off. We're learning something very cool. King Ghidorah can heal. He can regrow discarded heads. So that head's gone. Head number 3's back, and it's amazing. I mean, at first I'm like, okay, I see the discarded heads. Like, they're gonna go this route the whole movie? Is that what they're gonna go with? And if that's the case, I mean, that's actually, bold. But then they grow the head back. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if that's bolder or if that's, I don't know. Like, I'm very conflicted on how I feel about that. But regardless, he does grow the head back. After that point, Ghidorah takes his place at the top of that food chain. All the other kaiju are like, all hell Ghidorah, And what happens? What does the military do? They launch the Oxygen Destroyer. Now, if you're an old school Gojira fan, if you've watched the 1954 classic film, directed by Ishiro Honda, which I obviously recommend you watch at some point. I mean, if you don't, you didn't call yourself a Godzilla fan at that point, but, whatever. Watch it. If you've got Stars, it's on there already. If you don't, once again, Google Play, you can rent it. It should be like a $3.99 rental or $4.99. I'm not sure. But if you can watch it, please do. But anyways, they launched the Oxygen Destroyer, which does, it has an effective blast, and it's very reminiscent of the 1954 classic. And I think if this were the 1954 Godzilla, it would have worked. But this is a much bigger boy. So yeah, knocks the crap out of him. He's down for the count for sure. He's not dead. He's weak. So what does he do? He swims home to his location that is coded as Castle Bravo. Meanwhile, all the other kaiju they're doing Ghidorah's bidding. They're destroying the planet, doing what he wants. And Mothra finally hatches, takes her full mob form, and she's trying to she calls out to Godzilla because she's not swayed by Ghidorah's BS. She just understands that, hey, this guy is hurting our planet. This guy is not our king. He's a false king. I'm gonna go find the real king. And she does. She locates Godzilla, which kind of points Monarch in the direction. We get this great scene of self-sacrifice. We unfortunately lose Dr. Serizawa, who you may have seen in the trailer where he goes into the fiery pits. Turns out that was Godzilla's nest or home, whatever you can call that, to detonate a nuclear device which reinvigorates Godzilla. Which, bear with me for one moment here. Got a little something I wanted to show you. It's relevant to the conversation here. So, first and foremost, yeah, this big boy. So he's taking over the world. Serizawa, he's got to do something about this, And he finds out that while he's down there, Godzilla, he is regenerating. He is, trying to heal himself. And he's doing his best, but the process he's taking is going to take forever to accomplish. So when he detonates that device, it's to speed things up, because they can't wait years. They can't wait decades, if not centuries, for Godzilla to heal. but it has a bad side. So I mean, you've kind of got this going on throughout the entirety of the final battle of King Ghidorah versus our blue Godzilla here. He's supercharged Godzilla. You know, not really a fair fight, although, yeah, that's what happened there. But then, what happens? What happens to Blue Boy here? Well, this guy starts heating up during a wonderful battle between, you know, Rodan. Haha. Can't say I'm not a Godzilla fan here. And where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Here you go. And this does not want to stay on for some reason. Our queen here, Mothra. Which, that's awesome. These two actually get into an epic fight. And then, little stinger action right here. Stabs that motherfucker right here in like the... Right about here, where my finger is. Stabs him. Whoop, there he goes. And then, as she flies into Ghidorah, she herself is vaporized. But then, takes her energy, adds it to him, who then becomes him. We get Burning Godzilla. And Burning Godzilla is so powerful that when he walks through, buildings are melting. Like, they are just like done. They are melting in his wake. Like, he is that powerful. And he uses like this pulse. So you've got this great Godzilla versus Destroyer Easter egg. You've got classic 1954 Gojira Easter eggs. You've got amazing monster battles. You've got great set pieces. You've got battles between humans. You got battles. You get return of some of the other kaiju. You even get Mutos make a comeback from the 2014 film. We actually get them back. So I mean, we're getting, Oh, I almost forgot. They actually make a reference to the twin fairies from the Mothra films. They actually make them in universe. But what they do is you actually have these sets of twins that work for Monarch. And so you have Chen, who's one of these twins, and then you have her sister Ling, who's stationed elsewhere, and you meet her for only a brief second. And I think she's probably gonna have a much bigger role in the Godzilla vs. King Kong movie. Which, don't quote me on that, obviously, but it does lead you to believe that. So, I mean, if we get Mothra to have a comeback, let's not be surprised. And I'm honestly hoping we do. I hope we get a Mothra comeback. They make a lot of implications towards that. But, I mean, obviously, Godzilla wins. Defeats Ghidorah here. Goodbye Ghidorah. Or, if you want to go big on this. Goodbye Ghidorah. Vaporizes the shit out of him. Like, uses those atomic pulses to destroy the wings, body, and all that. And, like, the final scene is great. You actually have Godzilla, has, like, Ghidorah's head, like, in his mouth. And he, like, shoots the atomic blast through, like... So, the 2014 one, when he was, like... he's got the Muto here, and he like opens up her jaws, and he's just like right into her mouth, right? Same thing, same concept, but it's like this instead. It's like, put that up here. I don't know, maybe this will work. Yeah. It's like this, like, and then kind of out this guy's mouth, like, yeah, like there you go. And you're done. It's like they took the same scene. It's like, okay, say me breathing fire from your mouth into your body. I'm gonna breathe fire out of your body and out through your mouth. And it was just epic, just epic ending. But as you remember, though, this isn't the first time that this head has been removed. You know. So he vaporizes King Ghidorah. Then what happens? You still have the other guy, the one we thought was the primary villain. You have to fill me on the actor's name in. I have to look it up later, but yeah. He ends up finding the discarded head, which leads me to a lot of theories. So he's got this discarded King Ghidorah head. What's going to happen? You know, what's our future there? Now, I've got theory number one. He finds a way to cause Ghidorah to regenerate from that head. Like it spawns backwards. Which case, you know, if that's what's going to happen, you know, then it's a great way of bringing back a natural Ghidorah. The other option, which I don't even know how this would be feasible, I mean, just from a logistics standpoint alone, Mecha King Ghidorah? Possibly? He's on his own. I mean, I can't really see him having the financing. Like, all the stuff seems to be, like, you know, on-site procurement and stolen and whatnot. So I just don't see him having the kind of connections to make a Mecha King Ghidorah. I don't think that's going to happen on its own. But regrowing King Ghidorah, that I think is something that's possible. I get it. I think that's something they can do. But, you know, in this kind of movie, I think anything can happen. I mean, but that's, and even still, all I've discussed is the monster side of it. I mean, you know, we've got some great character moments, like I said. We've got some odd decisions here and there, but I mean, honestly, within the universe, they sort of make sense if you look at it from that perspective. Donkey Kong there. Speaking of Kongs, but you know, I'm excited. That's the thing. Like, I'm genuinely excited where this is gonna go. So I mean, if we get like a really good, you know, Godzilla vs. King Kong, like I said, I hope we get to see Mothra come back. Honestly, I would not be opposed to a solo Mothra movie, using Ling and Chen as their primary focus. I'd actually be very open to that. So, Mr. Doherty, if you're listening to this, Toho Studios, if you're listening to this, I am all for a Mothra movie, as is my girlfriend. She's a huge Mothra fan. So, I mean, I know she'd be open for it. And I know a lot of people are Mothra fans, so, you know, hashtag long live the queen. I would like to see a solo Rodan movie. I think that's more than feasible. Possibly you know, return to a solo Godzilla movie. A solo King Kong movie would be good. I don't think he needs to come back to New York. I think you've seen that movie. But I wouldn't mind seeing another solo King Kong movie either. I mean, honestly, if this is done correctly, you know, I feel like we can we can do a lot with the material. You know, we could make, you know, another 10, 15, 20 of these movies. And I know that seems like insurmountable at some points, but then again, I look at the MCU and I go, you know, at this point, I feel like anything's possible. Now, as far as like what I thought was off about it, I wanted to get into this with you, because once again, I gave this a 8 out of 10, and once again, like, I never give anything a 10 out of 10. It's impossible for me to even think that way. The reason I think it didn't get a 9 out of 10, I feel like they may have gotten rid of a few characters that I wanted to stick around a little bit longer, so maybe that's more of a personal bias. I also feel like they went for what I would call hero dialogue. What I consider hero dialogue is like, okay, so you're in an obvious, life or death situation, right? And then you have this character who is just like, okay, they're gonna make themselves the sacrifice. They're gonna make the sacrifice play for the benefit of everyone. And they do that. They have that whole, like, man's gotta do what a man's gotta do kind of, attitude about themselves. And I get why people do that. It's just it feels a little. There were parts I felt like were a little on the cliched side. There were parts I felt, I feel like we're predictable, a little cliched, a little uninspired at points. I mean, I'm not asking for an Oscar-worthy movie. I'm not. But I don't want my characters to pull 180s on their personalities just to move the story forward. I want a character, if they're going to do something, I want it to stay within the rules that are set for that character. They're going to behave in this way. And while Dr. Serizawa's sacrifice is in keeping with his love of Gojira and love of I guess that servitude towards those gods and those kaiju, I think he's also the kind of guy who would have been smart enough to figure another way around that. I mean, especially when earlier in the movie you have this one scene where this drone gets pretty close. I mean, it surfaces at least. And then you also prove that the blast is big enough where Godzilla doesn't even need to be in the epicenter of that blast. So, I don't know. I feel like some alternatives could have been made. But once again, that might just be my own selfishness. I think I just wanted Serizawa to stick around longer. I think I wanted him to be sort of like this mainstay within the Godzilla franchise. But it looks like that might be, considering the fact that Millie Bobby Brown is already casting in King Kong versus Godzilla, and she's already, I think, filming that movie as we speak. I think she is going to end up being the mainstay. But then again, like, does it need to be her? I mean, the one thing I like about the old Godzilla movies is that the main cast sort of changed almost every movie. Every film we got new protagonists, new antagonists, new, heroes and villains rising and falling. So, I don't know. I mean, if they do another solo Godzilla film, there's things I'd like to see. Possibly on the selfish side once again. I would love to see the Xylians come in, the aliens. I would like to see more of the classic Toho beasts. For instance, so they have this one that's sort of like an Egyptian reference, but I feel like it could have been easily a King Caesar reference. So I'd like to see King Caesar. I'd like to see Jet Jaguar at some point. Mecha Godzilla for sure, which I know Michael Dougherty has spoken a little bit about that. I would like to see Gigan make an appearance. Ghidorah. But I mean, like, you've also got these, about 17 and counting new kaiju that are specific to the legendary universe, so maybe it's a good time to let them shine too. So, I mean, like, I don't want to just be nothing but Toho callbacks. If we can, make, like, one of the ones that they really showed a lot was this kaiju called Behemoth, which is basically like this giant mammoth with no tusk. I mean, no trunk. They just had these massive tusks. They had this big ass spider looking thing too, which I think that was actually a callback to one of the Toho monsters. I believe the spider in question, I don't remember its name, but I believe it was in the Son of Godzilla film, I want to say. Anyways, so I want a healthy mix of classic Toho monsters and then new legendary monsters. I want, you know, elements to always be there. And honestly, I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing, Mr. Doherty come back as a director. I think he did a fantastic job. I think he gave me the movie I was looking for. I think he gave me the movie that Godzilla fans will enjoy. And the general public, I think, will enjoy. I mean, despite what critics say or don't say. Because I think at this point in time, we're kind of done with your classic critics. So, once again, 8 out of 10. That's my rating for it. That's how my brain works. I mean, I'm comfortable with a 9 out of 10. But, I mean, just for me, it was an 8 out of 10. So definitely a good movie, definitely worth watching. Definitely worth watching in the movie theater. I definitely recommend watching in IMAX. Like I said though, recommend a watch list before watching this. Would be the 2014 Godzilla film and then of course Kong Skull Island. Like I said, they're not necessary to enjoy the film, but they do make it a little sweeter. And then as far as like other Godzilla movies, I would definitely say the 1954 Godzilla film. The original Japanese version. And then the King Ghidorah three-headed monster, which is sort of like the precursor to what this was. I mean, it's basically this movie with a lot less budget and a time that CG was not even a thought, much less a concept or even an idea. So I mean, definitely worth watching that. And I love the fact that they called King Ghidorah Monster Zero. So if you watch Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, also a good movie to watch. Rodan by itself, the first Mothra movie, Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla vs. Destroya for the Burning Godzilla reference, and then just so you can kind of get the idea, politics playing to the world of Godzilla, I would say Shin Godzilla. So those would definitely be all my recommendations right there. But thank you for staying with me. This is probably one of my longer videos, 47 minutes and 16 seconds, give or take. So thank you for watching. Please leave all your comments below. I'm open to all discussions. Please keep things civil. This is just about Godzilla fans coming together, or just fans of sci-fi, nerdom, things like that. I mean, you guys watch my videos. So this is me saying good night. Enjoy King of the Monsters.